My name is Ward Furman. I am a senior Business Central consultant with Covenant Technology Partners. Today, we're going to look at how to upload data to Business Central using a configuration package. The way to find them most easily is to go into the search and start typing configuration package. What we see now are a list of existing configuration packages in the system. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and create a new one that will be used for importing vendors into the system. So to create a new configuration package, we'll click on the New button, which will open up our configuration card. Inside the card, we'll have to identify this particular configuration with a code and give it a name. Because of the fact that we're going to be importing vendor records, we'll go ahead and name it the same thing as what its purpose is. This just makes it easier to find what I'm looking for later. On the bottom section of the page, we see that we have tables. This is where we designate what tables we want to push and pull in and out of Business Central. Because we want to look for the vendor table, if I don't already know the table ID, I can click on the ellipse here, which shows a list of all available tables within the system. I can either scroll through to find what I'm looking for, or I can use the search button and begin typing. When I find the table I'm looking for, I just click on it and say OK. As we see, that now pulls the table ID into the system, but no other information has popped up yet because I haven't told it for sure that's the table I want. So by just leaving the field, it'll ask me, do I want to include information about the fields that have two or more related tables behind them? We don't really need to verify this at this point, but if we wanted to make sure that we understood those relationships, we could. Go ahead and open that now. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're just going to do a basic export and import of information from Business Central so we can add vendors to our existing list. We see here now that the system has pulled in the list of all available fields in the system. It also has included them as part of this configuration package. It says it will also be validating the information for each one of these fields, with the exception of only one being the primary key field, the number on the vendor card. Now, normally we're not going to export and import an entire set of all fields available on a table. So what we'll want to do is drill in on the number of fields available, where we'll see a list of all the fields that that table contains. We also see grayed out here that they are included and that they will be validated when they come in and out of the system. What I can do now, because of the fact that I don't want to include every single field, is I can clear the included field. As we see now, the included check marks and the validated check marks have all disappeared. From here, I can go ahead and start selecting the fields that I want to include in my configuration package. So I click on the Edit List button to allow myself to modify what will be included, and I'll start selecting the fields that I want. In this case, I want to include the name field, address, address to, city, the phone number, payment terms code, and now we're going to start looking for fields that might not be easy to find by just scrolling up and down. So the easiest way to do this is to go to the search window again. We start typing in what we're looking for. We're going to select the country region code. We're also going to select the county code and the post code. As I leave here, we can verify what we show on our configuration package now by exiting and coming back in to refresh the screen. Now we see that the number of fields that are included are now down to 10 fields. To see those without the rest of the unused fields in the system, I can go ahead and click, and this will show me what fields I currently have configured that will be pushed and pulled out of Business Central. At this point, I have enough information set up that I can go ahead and push information out of Business Central into an Excel document where I can review it and add the new records that I want. To do this, I'll click on Excel, Export to Excel. It tells me that I have selected one table. Do I want to continue? Yes. At this point, it has opened up, or it has downloaded a file for me to open up. When I pop this open, we see that I have a spreadsheet of the existing records in the system. Each one of these columns, when re-imported, will need to conform to the data type and structure for each one of the fields within Business Central. If I want to create a new vendor on the list, I can copy and paste it from another Excel document, but it has to make sure that the fields do line up with each one of the heading columns that we have here, and it has to follow the data structure. So if it is a zip code, we cannot have someone's name in the field. What I'll do now is create a new one. We'll just call it test 001. We'll give it the name org. Give a simple address. Say that it's in Chicago. We'll give it a nonsense phone number. We'll say its payment terms are 1 month. And as I type, you see that just like normal Excel documents, it's checking to see if there's already a value there. If in the case that I'm trying to bring in new records with new field values, I would have to make sure that when I double check in Business Central, that whatever values I'm putting into this field do indeed exist in the underlying table inside Business Central. United States, and because we already see that Chicago, Illinois is up here, I can go ahead and grab that and paste it down here and tell it I'm in Illinois. So now I have created a new vendor on my list. If I save this, I should be able to import and create a new vendor record in the table. So at this point, I will go ahead and save my change, close Excel, and come back to Business Central. As we see, before I run the import, we have 18 records in the database that were exported previously. So when we're complete, we should see a total of 19. So at this point, I'm going to import from Excel. I can select the fields that I entered in this table. We see that it's going to populate the vendor table using this configuration package. I then tell it, yes, I want to import that, and it puts it into a evaluation state. At this point, the record has not been hasn't been published to Business Central for use. Instead, it is in an evaluation state where I can go in and review and make changes to it prior to applying the data to the system. So if I want to go and look at the records, I can take a look at them, but in this case, we're just going to go ahead and move straight forward to validating the relations. What this is going to do is for every one of the fields that I included, it's going to take the values it sees in that Excel spreadsheet and check that they actually meet the data type requirements inside the Business Central table. So I say yes, and I wait to see. It says one table processed. Now at this point, if there were errors, I can view those under the table selection errors. This will show me each one of the records that's throwing an error, and from there I can point at it and click show error, and that will help and where things didn't work correctly. Because of the fact that we don't have any conflicts within our import, I can go ahead and close this. And at this point, we are still in that evaluation state. However, we have already validated our relations. So now we can go ahead and apply this and see if that completes the loop and puts records into the vendor table. We click apply. One table has been selected. Yes, I do want to move forward. At this point, we see that it has processed the one table. It found zero errors. One record was inserted. No records were modified. So to double check myself, I can scroll over here and I can see that previously we had 18 vendor records on the table, and now we see 19. To view these, I can go ahead and click on this link, and it will launch the vendor list. And as I scroll down, I'll see my new vendor has been created in the system. And this is how we can move data from configuration environments, test environments, demo environments to other databases using configuration packages. So at this point, you should be able to create your own configuration packages and be able to update and modify existing records or add new records to your Business Central environment. Thank you very much.